Good afternoon, everyone. It's my pleasure to introduce our last keynote speaker for the conference, Associate Professor Tharanga Rajapakshe. Tharanga Rajapakshe is an Associate Professor of Information Systems and Operations Management at the Warrington College of Business, University of Florida. She holds a PhD in Management Science, a Master of Science in Supply Chain Management, and a Master of Business Administration from Naveen Jindal School of Management, University of Texas at Dallas, USA. She obtained her bachelor's degree in production engineering from our University of Peradeniya here in Sri Lanka. Tharanga's research interests are twofold: socially responsible operations management and production and service operations management. Her work in socially responsible operations management investigates the impact of government policies and influence of other social organizations on firms' operational decisions. Her work in production service operations management analyzes challenging real-world operations management problems and provide optimal or near-optimal solution methodologies. She has taught both bachelor and master level courses, including operations management, managerial quantitative analysis, project management, and principles of logistics and transportation systems. She also serves as a senior editor of Production and Operations Management Journal. Over to you, Professor Tharanga.
Thank you, Naveen. Let me share the screen. Okay, good afternoon, everybody. We are moving away from what you have been actually discussing. My presentation is actually not going to be on rail transportation. However, my goal in this talk is to introduce you to some new developments, actually 3 areas. You might have heard of all these 3 areas, but the main goal is to discuss in depth certain logistic issues and how we can implement these in practice. And I picked these 3 developments because I thought that they might be useful even in Sri Lanka in the future. As Namal mentioned, I'm an associate professor at the University of Florida. And you can reach out to me if you need any in-depth information about mathematical or modeling side of this. To keep the talk appealing for everybody, I'm not going to dig into all the mathematical modeling in this talk. So today we are going to discuss 3 different areas: sharing economy, online platforms and recommendation systems, and auto-guided vehicles. I'm pretty sure that you have seen all 3 applications in practice. Some of you might be working in these areas, so feel free to share your thoughts and give your ideas during and after the presentation. So let's start with the sharing economy. What is sharing economy? Sorry. So it is a use of single asset by multiple users or consumers. Every single time you use ride sharing, such as Uber or Lyft, you are actually contributing to this sharing economy. In university settings and in large cities, we actually see bicycle scooter sharing. So at University of Florida, we have a car sharing program too. So in ride sharing, such as Uber, Lyft, the asset is owned by a person. There is a driver, basically. You can be an Uber driver. So you own the asset, but you share your asset with others. However, in bicycle, scooter, or car sharing programs, there is no owner. A company is actually running the system, and you can rent the bicycle or the scooter or the car and use it for commuting. Then we have paper services for durable products, and you would see Xerox, Caterpillar, they utilize these services. This is slightly different than leasing and renting. You can get the durable product for your usage, and then you can return it. You will be charged for the duration of the usage only. So this is also part of sharing economy. So you can expand these examples. There are many more examples that goes under sharing economy. However, we have to ask, what are the advantages? The main direct advantage is the reduced asset usage. Think about having two cars on the road and having one car on the road through the sharing economy. So it directly reduces the total asset usage. In Caterpillar's case, you can actually see they are using this heavy machinery. They can reduce the number of machines they use because they can use the same Caterpillar machine for various customers based on their needs. Next advantage is the environmental impact. Obviously, the virgin material usage is low because we reduce the production. That actually feeds into reduced carbon emission. And at the same time, you are reducing the congestion level. So your traffic on the road expect to reduce with such programs. Then, of course, these come with economic benefit. If you think about a company who's trying to use the sharing economy, let's take Caterpillar as an example, it can produce one heavy machinery and then rent it or use it for multiple consumers. By doing that, the production cost reduces, but they can still maintain the same revenue stream or same revenue level. So there is a huge economic benefit to this. Of course, you can maximize the utilization of the asset. If you own a car, you can understand that you may not be using the car throughout the day. But under sharing economy, the car is being utilized more and more. So this goes for all the other services, all the other examples I have listed. So you can maximize the utilization of an asset. So asset is not idling. So it is making money or it is making a contribution. So those are the advantages. So in this talk, I am going to talk about bicycle and scooter sharing. I haven't seen scooters that much in Sri Lanka, so I'm going to refer to the bicycle sharing, but all these going to be applicable for scooter sharing. When I say scooters, it's not the motorbike scooter I am talking about. These are the scooters that you would see little kids actually ride. So that's the adult version. You have electrical scooters, which you can use for transportation, and these are very popular in university settings, and we do use this in Gainesville, Florida. So let's talk about the bicycle sharing. So these are some examples. I am not going to go into links given that we are behind the schedule. I'll share this presentation with Prasanna. You can get access to it and you can read these articles if you are interested in systems like this. So these are some of the huge bicycle sharing programs, and these are very popular in China, USA, and Europe. And I'm pretty sure these can be easily implemented in developing countries like Sri Lanka, India too. So I thought of introducing this idea and then discuss how we could implement such a system in practice. In bicycle sharing programs, you basically rent a bicycle from a station, and you can return a bicycle to a station or to a non-station. I will discuss this a little bit in detail later. So what are the challenges that comes with a bicycle sharing program? First, the demand estimation, which is typically stochastic. So it's very challenging to estimate. Think about demand estimation for a system like this. Let's take the University of Florida, and University of Florida wants to implement bicycle sharing program within its limits. So you have to actually figure out the class schedules and when would the students would get out, what would be the demand for the bicycle, and what is their return behaviors based on that, where would they return the bicycle to. So all these are not going to be deterministic. So these are stochastic like demand estimations that you have to work with. So this is one challenge and a major challenge. Second, the route and duration prediction. The bicycle route's not going to coincide with the typical road network that we have. So we have to come up with the network design and then figure out what routes the students tend to use. I am still sticking to the same example, University of Peradeniya utilizing the sharing system. So they can use various shortcuts. So you have to identify those and do your route duration predictions accordingly. Then these durations may depend on a lot of external factors. Therefore, they tend to be, again, stochastic in nature. Then you have to decide what type of stations you are going to operate. Are you going to have only stations? That means there is a designated depot from which the students can rent the bike and return the bike to. Or are you going to have non-stations? That means bicycles are free floating, they are lying around, and you can use an app or you can actually swipe a card and then use the bike and then leave it wherever you want to. And University of Peradeniya might have a separate, let's say, entity who would be doing relocation of the bikes at the end of the day. Or are you going to use a hybrid system where you have stations in certain places and certain places you don't have stations, but you let the users to just go into this non-station mode? Then comes the question of clustering. In order to do the demand estimation and to figure out how many bikes to use, similar to clustering that we observe in transportation, you have to cluster the geographical areas according to certain factors. So how are we exactly going to do this? How are we going to perform the repositioning? Are we doing it once a day? Or are we going to do it dynamically? And if we are going to do it dynamically, so what is the frequency? What routes are we using? From what cluster to which cluster are we going to move the bikes? So is it going to change during the day? So these are the challenges that you are going to observe. And finally, you have to ask about your ability to pool your asset. The pooling here refers to the use of one asset again and again. Let's take one day. What is, how many times can you use the same bike to satisfy the consumer demand? So pooling depends on the consumer demand. At the same time, it depends on the length of repositioning. Where would the bike going to be? The length of the duration of the use of a bike by a particular customer. So pooling is typically, again, dynamic. And then how are you going to determine this? And based on that, how are you going to figure out the fleet size? So in order to do that, of course, people have done a lot of research in this area. And here is a very high-level 8-step process. First 3 steps actually are strategic in nature. So you look at the aggregate data and then you come up with bikeway network design. You can actually survey a University of Peradeniya, identify all the shortcuts that the students can use, what are the bike lanes if they exist. And if they are using the existing road network, you can add that. So the bikeway network design would be very different from the existing road network. Then you can actually ask, where should you keep your stations? Where shouldn't you keep your stations based on aggregate level of demand and return patterns? Here you are looking at like long-term predictions, so you can still work with deterministic models. Then you can figure out the fleet sizing based on this high-level aggregate data. The next 2 steps, static bicycle relocation and static demand management, these are more or less tactical decision making, so medium term. Here you are asking, what are the relocation methods? Are we relocating bikes at night? What type of vehicles are we going to use for relocation? Again, you can make these decisions based on aggregate level data. You don't have to go into very in-depth analysis. Then you can decide what type of pricing mechanisms you are going to use. Is it going to be incentive-based? For example, you can say, if you return a bike to a station, I will give you 5% discount next time you are going to rent a bike. So that motivates students to return it to a station, which actually reduces your amount of work in relocation, because you can simply pick the bikes from a station rather looking for them all over the campus. So that is your basically the demand management tool. Then the last three steps, these are day-to-day operational decisions. This is where you will encounter the stochastic nature of the problem, and it is dynamic. So you're looking at dynamic stochastic problem. So you have to dynamically adjust your inventory. How many bikes needs repairing, how many bikes you need to replace, how are you going to relocate the bikes. Suppose there is a convocation going on, then are you going to make sure there are more bikes near a particular area? So how are you going to change your bike relocation problem dynamically? Similarly, the demand management. Suppose it's the holiday and you will see reduced demand for the bikes. Do you want to motivate students to use the bikes? Can you give discounts? Can you give certain type of incentives? Can you penalize for not returning a bike on time? So you can actually ask, how do you shape the demand or move the demand around through pricing strategies? So I have given the description of what I have discussed in this table. I will not spend a lot of time on this. So here again, the first three decisions, they are strategic in nature, done using aggregate level data. The second level decisions, these are tactical, static decisions. The vehicle routing, pickup and drop-off decisions, the quantities, all these are done based on, again, aggregate level data. This is the level where you are determining the clustering of the geographical area based on demographic and maybe social factors. Then finally, you are looking at the operational level data, where you dynamically changing your inventory levels and relocation of the bikes and adjusting and smoothing your demand. These are typically dynamic and stochastic in nature, and you need very granular level data. So what needs to be done in this area if you ever get into this? First, spend time in designing bikeway network. This is not that straightforward, because when you are determining the bikeway network, you have to ask, what is the demand for the bikes? Still at the aggregate level, nonetheless, maybe you have to do market surveys and gather some information about socioeconomic backgrounds of the people living in that area, all the demographic factors. How likely are they to use a bike for their transportation need? What type of transportation methods they are currently using, what is the likelihood of them switching from that to the bicycle. This may depend on economic factors, this may depend on some behavioral factors. Then you have to ask, am I going to overload certain lanes? If I am overloading, how am I going to alleviate this congestion? Am I going to expand? Am I going to introduce new bike lanes? What is the impact of my bike network on the existing road network? You would expect that the students or the consumers to switch from, let's say, use of buses and vans or cars or motorbikes to the bikes. So how would that impact the congestion level? Right? And then if you are relocating students to, let's say, a station, and you might see all of a sudden increase in like demand in that particular station for buses, because the station might be like a hub. From that hub, the students can take a bus to the city. So you would see a higher demand for buses there, but can you change the frequency of the bus arrival accordingly? So the bikeway network design actually overlaps with the existing transportation network design. So this is where you have to spend some time doing your research. Second, the station design with different type of bikes. I haven't seen a lot of deviation in a type of bikes in Sri Lanka. However, there are huge deviation. You can have multiple seats. You can have cargo bikes where you have baskets in the front and the back, and then you can use these bikes for transportation of goods. And there are bikes for special need personnel. So you can have those. There are electric bikes and there are pedestal bikes. What type of bikes are we using and what is the quantity? How are we going to relocate these bikes and what is the frequency of the relocation? So this actually sounds like a multi-commodity flow if you want to know how we map this onto something we actually have learned in the past, because there are different type of commodities and it is moving in a network. So it's a multi-commodity flow problem, but with some added constraints. So how are we going to tackle this problem? Then third, you can ask, what is the social and economic impact of my bike sharing network? You can actually design various different objectives. Last few weeks, I have been hearing that we have to be net zero in carbon emission. We have carbon targets. So can we add or can we contribute to such targets through systems like this? Can we reduce the congestion? By doing so, can we reduce the production level? Can we reduce the usage level? Can we actually reduce the carbon emission? So how are we going to contribute to those areas? This solely depends on the objective of the designer. Nonetheless, there are important factors. Based on that, your design may vary. So these are certain things where actually academicians can help the practitioners, because you can see that they overlap with the things that we already know as academicians. So you can actually help with modeling. I have seen a lot of robust optimization methodologies in designing these type of systems simply because of the stochastic dynamic nature. So we need analytical models, we need empirical methods, and you can actually use AI to learn about the methods and dynamically change your algorithms. So you can use all these academic methods to help the practitioners. So let's move on to the next topic, online platforms and recommendation systems. This is again a topic you might have seen over and over, and you might be wondering, what does it have anything to do with logistics? So let me first explain what it is quickly for those of you who haven't actually encountered an online system, which is highly unlikely. Online system is nothing but an online real estate that allows, let's say, a suppliers and buyers to come together. Oftentimes, we have two different types of online platforms, single-sided and two-sided. In a single-sided platform, the buyers typically approach the platform and then purchase a good. Platform is maintained by the retailer or the company, whomever providing the service or the goods. In a two-sided platform, platform is a third party. The buyers and sellers, or the service providers and the people who want services, they actually approach the platform, typically with a fee or sometimes without a fee, and they actually find what they want by utilizing the platform. So you can think about Uber. It is a platform. It is a two-sided platform because the drivers can log into the Uber platform and you can use the Uber app to get the services. However, if you buy something online, let's say I'll take a simple a retailer, like a Walmart. If you want to buy a product from Walmart, it's a single-sided platform because Walmart is maintaining the platform, making its goods available, and you are logging into the Walmart platform and purchasing it. So you are making the decisions by looking at the products. These platforms typically come with a recommendation system. For example, if you ever purchase a product, you will see like somewhere on the right-hand side or on the bottom, you can see customer who bought the same product also bought these items. Or based on your search history, they will show you similar items. So these are coming from recommendation systems, and recommendation systems are not random. They run on algorithms. They actually understand your search behavior, like the purchase patterns of similar personnel, and maybe some other behavioral factors. Then it decide how are we going to show these recommended products. Am I going to sort them or rank them according to the lowest price to the highest price, or highly matched products, or the same color or same product attributes? So they decide what to do in order to maximize the platform profit. So all these you have already seen. The question is, can we use these in transportation? Remember, we want to use them in logistics. And I actually started working with a company recently. That is why I thought of introducing this to you. This is actually driven by the driver shortage in transportation industry. Currently in US, we have like 80,000 drivers in shortage, and the supply chain is taking a hit. The ports are basically congested. The ships are arriving, containers are there are no drivers to transport items from the port to the warehouse. So the supply chain basically completely disrupted at this point, and it's a lot of talk going on how we remedy this, how to hire more drivers. So why this driver shortage? And by the way, this is not a problem only in United States. This problem exists everywhere. I'm working with a professor in India, and they also face the same issue, the driver shortage. And maybe in Sri Lanka also, there is a driver shortage. So at least in the United States, why do we observe a driver shortage? First, the time away from home. Of course, country being huge, the routes are very lengthy. You are driving like a couple hundreds of miles, or maybe sometimes thousands of miles away from your home base. So it takes more than, let's say, 7 days to come back. So it impacts your quality of life. Second, the lifestyle of a driver during the trip. You are living in that small like seat most of the time, and then you sleep in the truck, a very small area in the back of the truck that you have to sleep. You have less interaction with your peers. You can't have any hobbies. There are no schedules. So your lifestyle is completely disrupted. And with that comes health issues. So obviously you can understand you are sitting in one place more than 12 hours per day, and you don't have time for exercising or even walking. So there are a lot of health issues comes with this. And truck drivers typically have irregular schedules. You can understand that also, unless you work for a very high volume carrier, you have irregular schedule because you have to go with the demand. So all these reasons actually contribute to the shortage. And these days, this has aggravated due to the pandemic. Nonetheless, actually, the driver shortage has been there for a longer period. So what are the remedies? We see several. Of course, we can improve this by better routing. If you can actually break the routes, basically create the circles, right? Circular routes in such a way that the time taken for each route is minimized, or let's say will not exceed a day or two. You can relocate your driver back to the home base, rather asking your driver to stay on the road for several days. Then we have buddy system, where there are two drivers sitting in the same vehicle. While one driver actually relaxes, the other one drives. This comes with certain driving restrictions. I'll discuss it in later slides. Then we have slip seat driving. This is nothing but the asset being utilized. That means the truck is moving, but you take the driver away from the truck and then send him back to his home base. so that the route will not get disrupted. That means the routing of the truck will not get disrupted, but the driver can actually slip away from the seat and get back to the home base during a shorter time period. So slip seat driving actually decouple the driver from the truck. Trucks flow differently, drivers flow differently. So you have actually two different commodities flowing in the network. You have to design the truck routing separately, driver routing separately. So with all this, still this problem actually remains. So the company that I actually got involved with used a very innovative idea to remedy this. Again, I was planning to click on this link, but given our time restriction, I'm going to let you do this later on, search for this company. Let me explain what this company does with a diagram. So this is nothing but a two-sided platform with a recommendation system. And according to the CEO, this is designed to empower the drivers to alleviate the driver shortage problem, utilizing unused capacity. So they are not claiming to increase the drivers, the driver pool, but what they are trying to do is to better manage the existing capacity. I changed my mind. Let me see whether I could quickly show you at least one aspect of this slip seat. So this is their website. I'm not going to click on all these, but you can register on the website as a driver to sell the service or a carrier to buy the service. So you can see the two registration links. For drivers, you can see that you can create an account. For the carriers, you can actually create an account. While you are creating these accounts, actually they collect a lot of information. Some of the information they actually pull from the Department of Transportation, because in the US, all the drivers and the carriers, they have accounts, registered numbers with the DOT. This is what I wanted to show you. So if you go to find a slip seaters, okay, give it a minute, you can see how the system works. You can see the map, how many drivers in each area, and the driver name, the rate that the driver is charging. You can see the two drivers in the same area, two different rates. You can actually search for drivers based on your need. Okay, let me explain a little bit more with the presentation. So, so the system actually works like this. So here is the slip seat. This is not the slip seat that I talked about earlier, the slip seat, the driver like slipping from the seat idea. The company name is slip seat here. So it is a platform and it's a two-sided platform. The drivers actually can register like you saw in the platform, but while registering, they have to give certain like information, and the slip seat actually get the information on how many accidents they had, what are their preferences, what type of a driver is he? Is he a class A, B, C? That means the license that you can hold. You can't drive every single truck. And how many years of experience, so on and so forth. Sorry. Then the carriers who do not have drivers can also register in the system and they can post the jobs. And this is a little bit tricky. I'll discuss this in a minute. But they have to input their own preferences. So they can say, I'm looking for a driver who has 5-year experience. I want a driver with like no accidents, but with class A license. I want a driver with a truck, without a truck. So a lot of things actually they can specify when they come to the slip seat system. So now what the slip seat does, it provides a recommendation list based on the driver characteristics and the job characteristics posted by the carrier. So the recommendation list is created by the slip seat. So here we have the classic two-sided platform with a recommendation, which I have never seen in logistics. This is truly the first time I saw someone using such a system for logistic needs. So we had several discussions with the CEO. This is what they do. So in the current system, driver information is visible to all. As you saw, even you and me can see the driver information. You can see their rates, names, where they are located, whatnot. Job information is private. That means only the carrier and the platform knows what the job entails. And the carriers actually approach a driver that they pick based on the recommendation in order to get the service. So job information is private to the carrier. Drivers can change that posted rate you saw anytime before entering into a contract with a carrier. Once you enter into a contract, it's obvious you can't change the rate. But until then, you can do negotiations, you can do whatever you like, and you can decide on a rate. You can look at your fellow drivers, what is the competition, and you can keep on changing your rates. So given multiple job offers, a driver can pick which one he wants to do. So basically, drivers are empowered to pick the highest paying job or the best carrier they want, whatever their objectives going to be. Platform charges a fixed percentage of the revenue. Here, the key is the revenue. They do not charge anything for registering. They only charge if a driver gets matched with a carrier and the driver makes a revenue basically, and the driver has to give part of it to the platform. It is a fixed percentage. A recommended driver list is provided by the platform, and they claim that they have a AI behind the algorithm. I am yet to figure out exactly what they are doing, but the platform basically determine how to provide the recommendation list. There is a list length. They said that about 15 drivers they recommend for each job. So typically this platform is used for within a day route. Actually, the CEO was mentioning all the jobs typically appear at night, and they basically do the matching at night so the drivers can perform the jobs the next day. Even if carriers come early in the morning, they want from couch to the truck. That means from the time that a job get posted in the platform to the time the driver get matched and the driver start the job to be less than 45 minutes, because these are all local deliveries and we are not talking about like 2-3 days worth of travel here. And these drivers are typically employed by other like companies, other carriers. So the drivers logging into the system, because they have this unused time, DOT has some regulations. A driver in United States cannot drive more than 12 hours at a stretch. So suppose a driver drives 10 hours. Next 2 hours, the employer does not have a route to assign to this particular driver, so he's idling. He can actually sell that 2 hours worth of like driving on a slip seat so that they can make some extra money. So that is the unused capacity that the slip seat was referring to. So you can use this unused capacity to satisfy like the needs of other carriers. So here is an extension that they are trying to do, actually they are doing at this point. So I'm actually not giving you exactly with which company and what context. I'm using like very like high level terms. So there is a manufacturer, very large manufacturer. So SlipSeat is working with this manufacturer. So before SlipSeat system is like this, manufacturer has several carriers. So these carriers come with their own drivers. The drivers are contract drivers. They work for these companies. So the manufacturer actually tell these carriers, okay, you have these loads from this warehouse to that warehouse, please hold these things within this time. These are the windows. All the information is given to the carriers. So SlipSeat basically comes in and say, hey, you have a driver who worked for, let's say, 9 hours. He has 3 more hours available, but your loads coming from this manufacturer are more than 3 hours. So you can't utilize this driver, but why not use that driver for another company, another carrier who's serving the same manufacturer, right? So we are not in conflict. These drivers are trained to drive these similar type of trucks, similar type of products, because you are working for the same manufacturer, but this unused capacity like utilize our system. So the drivers actually can make their availability known through the slip seat system, and the same carriers would approach the slip seat system to get these other drivers from other carriers in order to satisfy their routing needs. So this is what they are doing, and actually this is very successful. Slipseat is making a lot of money by being the third party in this system. So why this is not a simple matching problem that we have learned in our undergraduate studies. So this sounds like a bipartite matching with edge weights. So this is the technical problem that we would typically think. This is what I also thought. One side, this is your drivers. The other side, you see the jobs. The weight Wij, this might be some sort of a parameter that you can come up with based on how well matched the driver to a particular job. So we can maximize the weights, or you can come up with your own weights and maximize, minimize them. Why this is not the case? Remember, this problem is a centralized problem, bipartite matching problem. We know everything. Everybody know everything about everybody. Everybody know that everybody know everything about everybody. So there is no hidden information here. However, the slip seat system is different. This is completely decentralized. Platform does not make any matching. They know everything about the drivers. They know everything about the jobs, but they won't get into the matching business at all. They simply provide a recommendation system. So each party decides what is best for each one of them, and platform can influence their decisions via the recommendation system design. And in a setting like this, you have to think about game theoretic approach. As you saw in the slip seat, the drivers can see each other. So drivers tend to look at their competition and change their rates, right? So that is a game theoretic approach. You change based on your competition. You can negotiate. So can we do some negotiation designs? What type of a negotiation can you do? Or is it a simple auctioning mechanism? You keep on changing your prices until you get to that point where the carrier actually agrees for your price. So how do we do the recommendation system designed to increase the platform profit and some other metrics, which I will talk in a minute. Think about the information structure. Drivers can see drivers, carriers can see drivers, but the drivers cannot see the jobs. The carriers cannot see other carriers with similar jobs, so they don't know about their competition. The carriers don't know about their competition. Drivers know about their competition, but they don't know about the availability of the job. And there are a whole lot of private information. The drivers have inherent preference to work with certain type of carriers because the environment is pretty good. So their preferences are private to themselves. And then the carrier's cost structure, nobody knows about that. So that is private to the carrier. So how do we uncover this private information? This is where we can actually use things like mechanism design to reveal the true preferences. Or we can use like AI techniques to learn and adapt our algorithms, or empirical validations using previous data to actually estimate these preferences. So we cannot use a centralized system because of this information structure. Then the platform has some other issues. Think about the platform. If they want to be successful in the future, they have to make sure the drivers who are registered on the platform actually being utilized. So driver utilization is a metric. Typically, we don't care about this in a typical matching problem. Now, what about the efficiency in the recommendation? What if carriers don't get matched with good drivers, right? So in that case, the carriers will not be motivated to use the platform in the future. That will impact the platform profit. So how are we going to incorporate those into this recommendation system design? So these all going to add constraints to the recommendation system design problem. Finally, the drivers have their own optimization of revenue. So think about a driver. So I use the green color driver here. So he's working for a carrier. So that's what is denoted by the contract. So he's a contract driver for a carrier. He's employed by someone. And let's say for a given day, this is his like schedule. He's going to utilize his time, it's roughly for that time. So your black line is your 12 hours, the working day. You cannot work more than 12 hours at a stretch. Now the remaining blocks can be actually sold using the slip seat system. And you don't know, you know your availability, but do you know the job length, right? There might be multiple jobs available for you at different time intervals, because the jobs, they don't start at the same time. They start at different times, they end at different times. So this looks like if you have heard of bin packing problem, but with slight deviations, because in a bin packing, we have a pack, we have some items, these items have some sort of a weight, and the bin can carry a particular type of weight. So you are trying to pick the items to maximize your utility. Similar idea here, but now we have a time dimension. You can't pick anything. You have to think about the matching your characteristic to those jobs and the length of the jobs, start time of the job. So it's actually something we know. We can utilize we can utilize that knowledge to model systems like this with some deviations. So what are the things that we could do in a system like this? Now I am talking in general, not about the slip seat. If you ever think about an online platform for logistics, what type of questions that we can answer? Information visibility. Do we want to make all the information visible for everybody, or partial information? Will it give a better system? What is the best structure? So this is something we have to figure out through analysis. How do we uncover private information? By the way, information visibility is different than private information. Private information is my own bias towards working with a particular carrier. Information visibility is this, my name is whether it is visible to the carrier or not. My age, is it visible to the carrier or not, right? That information is out there, but my own personal bias is not known to anybody. So how do we uncover private information? Through certain mechanism design. How do we design the rates? Is it a fixed rate like that we saw, or can we do something different? How do we do the matching restrictions that I talked about? Is it one-to-one matching, one-to-many matching? What type of restrictions we have? And what are the recommendation system design ideas? How do we utilize analytical, empirical, and AI methodologies to better design these recommendation systems? Okay. So let me quickly introduce auto-guided vehicles. This is the third area. I'm going to be a little bit quick here, given the time limit. We all know what these things are. These are vehicles that does not require a human to operate. Unmanned aerial vehicles or drones, we have heard about it, and there are self-driving trucks already on the roads. And I took the example from Walmart because this is something you already know, Walmart as a company. They use both, by the way. And self-driving trucks still like rarely seen. They are like experimenting, but drones, they are already delivering goods. So we will see self-driving trucks soon on our roads. They have more challenges than utilizing drones. So drones are used for last mile delivery, and these are like very, very important in humanitarian operations where you cannot reach certain areas. Nonetheless, even in physical goods delivery, these are very, very important because you can cut down on the delivery time and you can reach the places that a truck cannot reach. Implications of these adoptions going to be on the demand as well as on the supply side. I'll show you how it impacts both sides in a minute. And there are various constraints. What is the competition from others around you? The battery life of the drone, capacity, how many drones to use, how are we going to change the route conditions, so on and so forth. So the demand side, simply put, the faster delivery, customized delivery through drones, going to change how people going to place their orders and their expectations about product delivery, which would eventually going to shape the demand dynamics. This is going to influence your supply side decisions. First of all, your forecasting and the inventory strategies will get affected. Then you have to think about the distribution center design. Are you going to have a decentralized system or a centralized system? If you have a hub spoke system already in place, where are you going to use the drone deliveries? How are you going to change the truck routing that you have so that you can use the drones instead of trucks, so on and so forth. Even your consolidation strategy is going to get affected. Because the drones actually customize the deliveries. So you may need those deliveries faster. So if you have been consolidating those earlier, now you can't consolidate. So you have to ask how to consolidate. Basically, you have to rethink your network design and routing decisions in the presence of drones and self-driving trucks. Let me give you a quick example of how our routing going to get affected. The first picture shows our traditional milk run. Here is one depot, the square, and you actually go and deliver everything and come back. This is our traditional, traditional traveling salesman problem, right? This is called a milk run. But if you have an auto-guided, unmanned aerial vehicle, a drone, what you can do, you do not have to do a milk run. You can actually send the drone, take it back. So go deliver one, come back, deliver another one, come back. So it would look like this. It looks like this fork network where you use a drone or multiple drones to do the deliveries. If you have a system like that, it is already shown in previous work that this customized delivery guarantees in the presence of competition going to create highly decentralized network design. And it's going to create a bubble around that particular depot. So your network structure is changing and it is shaped by the competition you are going to face by other companies around you. And there is a deviation to this. What if rather doing the second, we do the third? This is called horse fly routing. Think about a horse who's running and a fly on the back of the horse who's actually going various places, coming back to the horse's back. The same idea here. A truck is actually going on an adjusted route. The earlier route is given in figure 1, and the adjusted route, the thick line in the figure 3, you can see that is very different than the previous one. Now here, the fly, which is the drone, going to actually go deliver the goods and come back to the truck again, take more, go back, come back. Now here, the drone's routing going to be pretty challenging because there is a moving target. So you have to figure out which points are you going to put on the truck route, which points are you going to combine for the drone. If the drone can carry more than one item, this is going to be even harder because which points are you going to consolidate for the drone? So this is another way that you can actually adjust your routing. So which system are you going to use and how are we going to rethink our routing decisions in the presence of these novel challenges? These get even more complicated. We already have drones delivering multiple goods. Actually, please go over these articles later. And we have drones being used as large, to actually hold large cargo. So you don't have to worry about a single item being delivered. And so all these going to add on to our routing and network design problems. Okay, so how many packages, what is the capacity, how many drones, and what routing are we going to do? How are we going to cluster our delivery points? If we are going to do pickups, this is going to be even more hard. Now think about having time windows on top of this. It's going to be even harder. think about factoring in traffic congestion patterns, how to accelerate, decelerate the drone so that you can preserve the battery life while, I mean, you don't want the drone to like basically lose the battery life in the midair, right? You want to get that back. How are you going to do the routing by taking all these things into consideration? Finally, all these give rise to a lot of policy implications. You have to think about people's privacy. They don't like drones flying over their heads. The noise, the safety of the products, the drone, and the people. So how are we going to ensure? Are we going to figure out particular drone routes, particular area okay for drones, particular areas no-go zones? Are we going to do better packaging? What type of products? So product line design now going to change. So how are we going to incorporate those? So recently, actually this is December 14th, the FAA approved 1 mile radius for the drone delivery. So in US, 1 mile delivery radius actually 10,000 homes. And this is specifically for delivering restaurant food to like various homes in residential and residential deliveries. So we are talking about 1 mile radius with 10,000 homes. So a lot of policy implications. So these are some added problems that we can investigate. So with this, I will conclude my talk. I can see 3 questions. Let me quickly see. So I have one question. What would you say the most highlighting positives? Yes?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Professor Tharanga. As always, it was very nicely delivered. So this is the, I think, 3rd or 4th talk I have listened from you. And it always comes as very clear, smooth descriptions of very complex mathematical problems. You have the ability to put them in terms that anyone can understand very easily. And it's also a very timely talk in a time where global resources are depleting, to talk about how to share and about the sharing economy. So you can see the interest in the talk. While the talk was going on, the questions were coming in. So others, if they have further questions, they can also put them through. So maybe we can start answering the questions that are already there, Professor Tharanga.
Yeah.
So maybe let me read it out, because I think attendees cannot see them. So the first one is, what would you say is the most the positives and the negatives of driver empowerment?
Yeah, this is a interesting question. So because we've been having several discussions with this company I was talking to you. Actually, I mean, my research group, we dropped the idea of looking at an analytical model for them, because driver shortage is very, very severe here. So we have a very, very skewed system right now. The drivers are in shortage. There are a lot of jobs arriving. So this particular business model works really well right now. So the CEO claims he does not have any issues with the system. But your question is one that I was wondering. So driver empowerment, I was trying to figure out, like, the driver has all the power in this system. It is good because drivers are not happy. Here, the drivers make 6-figure income, by the way. If you work for a company like Walmart, we are not talking about how do you say, like low-level jobs. So they are making more than 100,000 per year, which actually certain academicians won't make. Okay, if you make a PhD and then get into like engineering faculty, maybe you are reaching there like 100,000. So it's well paid, but yes, they are empowering it. It is good because there's motivation for more money, because their time is valuable and they want to be at home. So that is why, according to the CEO, they are doing this. But my question to him was similar to you, this negotiation that they can do. And competition that they create through the system going to actually increase and decrease the rates, right? It depends on what type of competition you experience from the supply side, that means the jobs, and then the demand side, other drivers, right? So do you really want to get into this negotiation? Because mathematically, you can actually show that this is going to reduce the surplus for the entire system. So that is the negative part of it. And here in United States, you don't have to worry about poaching that much, because there are various modes. There are like contract drivers, the owners, that means you own a truck and then you actually sell your truck and yourself, like your service. Then you have this leased truck drivers. There are various terminology. It's slightly different than you might see in Sri Lanka. So when I worked with this Indian professor, he was saying something like this is a big no-no, because another company would poach the driver from you. So that is another problem. So this is something I asked this is a US-based company, him. So it's not a big issue, because I mean, you can find, here is a shortage, and then you have a lot of labor regulations and everything. So conditions should be good. But in India, it's different. So some carriers are so nice, and then some are not so good. So they are not that open to an idea like this, because one driver sell the service through slip seat, then realize, oh, this is a wonderful place to work. Then let me change the job. Of course, through the system, sometimes these drivers get hired as employees. So it's a very valid question. That is the negative, the poaching. And the other thing is that mathematically, as an academician, I was thinking there is a surplus loss due to the competition that they create through the system. That is why I ask, what is the best information visibility design? How to uncover the private information? So can that alleviate this issue in certain ways? So that is a theoretical question, but it is very practical, by the way. Although it doesn't impact him at this point, the CEO at this point, because of this highly skewed market condition.
Thank you, Professor Tharanga. So by the way, that question was from Janapriya Jayawardena. So there's the second question is from an anonymous attendee. Are there any estimations on the changed effectiveness posed by the slip seat business model?
That's a good one. So this is exactly what why I got involved in the project, and I'm still involved. Effectiveness is very clear. Specifically, I can actually tell you it in like very clearly in the extension that I showed you, where they work with quote unquote manufacturer. So he was mentioning it was a 15-minute call to the manufacturer to get this done, and he was on board. You can actually calculate theoretically what is the increase in efficiency, because this unused capacity is going to go waste if they are not coming to the slip seat. So this manufacturer, that is why he was on board, because he has loads that the carriers cannot actually satisfy, because the contract driver, the driver who's employed by the carrier, has already reached his maximum driving limit, because here you cannot go beyond 12 hours, no matter how much, like it's a violation. So suppose that he has worked for 10 hours, the 2 hours, it's sitting there. So you can actually easily calculate everything that you can get matched, get that number of hours, right? Add them up, you know how the efficiency increases, right? Or like if you want the business value, see the revenue they make through this. So you can easily calculate that. So that calculation is pretty straightforward, because we are not talking about employing drivers for carriers through this system. We are talking about utilizing unused capacity, otherwise go waste. So every single dollar the slip seat makes, that is the proof of this unused capacity being used. And by the way, they are it's a very lucrative business. So that he is not even open for any improvement at this point, because he makes a lot of money out of it. I mean, of course, the company makes a lot of money, and you don't have to worry about improvement. Improving a system becomes important when the demand and supply mismatch is not that severe, right? We have a very skewed system right now. Then only all these matching issues, how to improve it, comes into play. Right now, drivers are in demand, and you saw that only like literally like about 9 drivers right now, because the mapping has happened the day it has started. So you will not see many drivers. They have been mapped with other carriers. So this happens at night. So they log in, they get mapped. So you will see the drivers are very less. What you cannot see in the system is number of jobs. That is very high, because I cannot disclose all the information, but that is very high.
Okay, thank you very much. So the last question that we have here is, you gave us solutions to improve the truck driver shortages. There are many companies such as Walmart are working on creating autonomous vehicles to solve this problem. Do you think there is another solution, or will that affect the number of truck drivers even more?
So this truck driver issue is much more sensitive than what I actually discussed. It's been there for a long time. The issue here is that whatever we do, it is merely impossible to take away this quality of life issue. You can do so many things. Now we have GPS routing. Actually, you have like these designated areas to rest. So you have so many things. These are more into policy making rather than routing issues, or like as logisticians, what we can do. Because whatever we do, it all lies with your like the lifestyle changes. That is the main driving factor. To the extent possible, you can improve routing, which people are doing, by the way, because this is a beaten to death area, that how to improve routing so that the drivers will not stay on the road for like 10 days. Here, there are drivers out for 10 days. I had stories where like you come back and you immediately go on another route. So that is why the buddy system, because you can rest, and then the slip seat system where you can come back, works. But think about it, there is a shortage. So that the shortage is real. So if your employer asks you to work on another route, whether you say yes or no, that's a big decision. Of course, you can say no. But to give you an answer as academicians or like the practitioners, there are like limits to what we can do. So slip seat system is not solving this issue. They are actually using the unused capacity. What might solve the issue is to create the demand somehow for the truck driving. So slip seat, the CEO, like last week when I was talking, he mentioned that like training people, there are a lot of people out of work at this time, right? Think about like previous restaurant workers, they are like out of work. So train the people, have these like programs to train them so that you can actually utilize them as drivers. And there are some interesting developments here, like I was like this public like broadcasting, I was listening, they were talking about this meat suppliers. So again, we are talking about drivers. So they were talking about the supply chain disruption and the meat suppliers. So they were saying, we cannot do out of your local area supplies at this point. So what they do, they use local drivers and they supply within a particular area only. So this has nothing to do with the truck driver problem. This is a different problem altogether. But I was thinking, okay, good, like at least the local area, local drivers, right? So they know the topology really well. So maybe you can drive. The issue is you can't drive all the trucks just because you have a license. You should be licensed to drive a particular type of a truck here. So you have those restrictions coming in. So it's easy to say train people, but you can't train, you can train people to drive a car to a, like maybe a van, or a van to a bus, but car to a truck, that's a different story altogether. So to put it simply, analytically, or like, I really don't know how to resolve the driver shortage problem. These are like larger level socio-economic factors are there, which requires maybe policies, maybe change in the way we look at this entire system altogether. You can say we can use drones, but then we are actually cutting down the employment, if you really think about it. Here we are not cutting down because we don't have employees at this point, but one can argue we are actually taking the jobs away, if you really want to put it like that, right? Although that is not the case given the condition. So if you don't want drivers, autonomous trucks are coming in, but there are issues with that. They are testing them on highways. We have freeways, no color lights, nothing, just drive. So then it is fine. But think about putting an autonomous truck, self-driving truck in Sri Lanka. I mean that algorithm and then managing that going to be, even here, like they are saying that's impossible because the conditions that it would encounter, that's so huge, you cannot actually anticipate everything. You have to dynamically change all these algorithms and all the technology behind it. But then we are not talking about a self-driving car. The impact is less. If you have seen an 18-wheeler, I'm merely scared to death to drive next to it. I won't actually drive next to 18-wheeler on highway. I am scared because the accidents are like really, really brutal if they were to happen. So hopefully there will be an issue, but unfortunately, I don't know what is the best way forward.
Very interesting. A lot of things to think about, a lot of impacts, a lot of different areas, different angles to think about. So since it's late, maybe let me ask just one last question before we wrap up. So we have this new normal with the COVID and social distancing. So how does this sharing economy, let's say bike sharing or even switching drivers in the same truck, how is that impacted by the new normal?
So that's a complete different discussion altogether. So here, there are a lot of things happening, not only the, so still we can use Uber, by the way. So you can ask someone to wear a mask. So there are some mandates. They will be wearing mask. This is, how do I put it? It's up to you what you do. So for example, like I haven't actually used Uber after this crisis. Let me think. I have never used anything, but I went to a theme park. So it's not sharing economy, but still you share a lot of things there. But the thing is that it's just all the like the hygiene measures. What is the extent to which others follow it? So it's actually at the comfort level. But the good question about the slip seating, some people do care, some people don't. If you don't, like, I mean, whether you wear a mask or not, it's very, very like a completely different perspectives we have here. So certain things, the vaccination has been mandated. So you have to be fully vaccinated in order to work. So even if you catch COVID, hopefully the impact is less. And then people are opting not to work. So if it is not mandated, people are opting not to work. So that is why this is getting even harder now, because you have drivers with COVID, drivers who don't like to work with someone else, all those going to actually add on to this issue. Actually, it is much more severe now, this driver shortage issue with the pandemic. So to simply put this, yes, it increases all the risks and it increases the issue, it aggravates the issue. But here it's like you are free to make your own decisions. So it's all like, it's a consumer-driven, customer-driven market. It's all up to us whether we want to use Uber or not, whether you want to work as an Uber driver or not. But as long as you use hygiene measures, I think it is just personal discretion after that.
Thank you so much, Professor Tharanga. I think a very interesting topic. I think we can discuss for hours, but since we ran out of time. I must again apologize for keeping you waiting after making you wake up early. So sorry about that. But I think you delivered an excellent talk, and I think everyone here enjoyed it. So thank you again, and hope to see you again in a different venue. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Siam City Cement entered the Sri Lankan market and established itself as the only fully integrated cement manufacturer in the country, and markets its product brands as ICLSE Cement. We are the only local producer of cement in Sri Lanka. Founded in 1969 in Thailand, Siam City Cement is a supplier of cement, aggregates, and construction solutions. We have the largest cement manufacturing complex in the world in Sarapuri. Today, Siam City Cement is present in 5 countries across Asia, including Sri Lanka, Cambodia, Indonesia, Bangladesh, and Vietnam. ICLSE Cement operates 2 plants in Putlam and Galle, and 2 terminals in the Colombo port and the Galle port, offering fresh cement consistent in quality to the market. We have a large asset footprint in Sri Lanka and continue to be the market leader. We place safety as our #1 priority for all our operational and business decisions. We aim for health and safety excellence through many world benchmarks and innovative solutions. ICLSE Cement is the technical partner for the National Safety Awards conducted by the National Institute of Occupational Safety and Health. We have also developed a safety officer development program for the first time in Sri Lanka together with them. We are committed to supporting a long-term national road safety program. With an island-wide distribution channel and a dealer network of 7,000 partners that has maintained long-lasting relationships with the organization. ICLSE Cement's strong customer-centric policy has led ICLSE Cement to establish a customer relationship management center to better serve clients. Constantly at the forefront of innovation, ICLSE Cement has also established a dedicated innovation and application center, mobile lab, and a center of excellence. ICLSE Cement serves the retail and B2B segments with a range of application-based cement variants. Is a unique affordable housing program. ICLSE Cement collaborates with a microfinance company to support the low-income individual house builders who represent the bottom of the pyramid. ICLSE technical officers are mobilized throughout the island to provide on-site technical assistance to the builder. ICLSE Samstha, ICLSE Extra, ICLSE Rapid Plus are emission-controlled green cements, which are the first green cement products in Sri Lanka. These products emit 7 kilos less carbon dioxide gas than any cement bag in the market. Ensuring sustainable practices, ICLSE Cement controls emissions through the Blue Sky project, which minimizes emissions at manufacturing plants. Over 80 hectares of forests have been grown under quarry rehabilitation initiatives, and ICLSE Cement has entered an agreement with IUCN for the conservation of wildlife in quarry areas. To reduce our carbon footprint and minimize the risk on the road, we have moved our transport from road to rail, saving 3.9 million road kilometers per year. ICLSE is proud to have constructed the first ever green preschool in Galle, which received a Gold Award from the Ceylon Institute of Builders. ICLSE villages have been constructed to house communities surrounding manufacturing plants, and we currently have 4 ICLSE villages benefiting over 200 households. As part of our contribution to national heritage, ICLSE Cement has pledged to renovate heritage railway stations. In Galle, ICLSE is proud to have renovated the Galle Dutch Library, which was founded in 1832. It is the oldest library in Sri Lanka and has a repository of over 7,000 books. INSEE EcoCycle is the waste management arm of Siam City Cement, currently represented in 4 countries. INSEE EcoCycle in Thailand has the largest pre-processing facility. INSEE EcoCycle offers waste management services for industries and serves over 400 clients in Sri Lanka. 1/3 of our energy requirement is replaced by alternative energy sources through INSEE EcoCycle's waste to energy solution. INSEE Cement has invested heavily on learning and development through a number of initiatives, in addition to placements in group companies. INSEE Academy provides employees the opportunity to further their expertise with recognized certifications. The EVE Center is established to enrich the community by providing vocational training with a highly recognized NVQ qualification. INSEE Awards is a forum to recognize outstanding employee achievements annually. INSEE promotes health and fitness among all its employees. INSEE Cement has received many laurels over the years in a number of spheres. INSEE Cement will continue to invest in its local operations, R&D, and technology improvements to build the future of Sri Lanka. INSEE Cement has partnered many iconic projects across the world and in Sri Lanka, contributing to the national resurgence and building the future. INSEE Cement, building brighter futures.
Now, to conclude this event, I would like to invite Mr. Namal Bandaranayake again to deliver the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Smita. Good evening, everyone. President, CILT Sri Lanka Central Chapter, the keynote speakers, and other distinguished guests. We have come to the conclusion of International Conference on Logistics and Supply Chain Engineering, ICLSE2021. I deem it a great honor and a privilege to propose the vote of thanks at this juncture. First of all, I would like to thank CILT International President, Dr. Dato, for his presence and encouragement at the inauguration. We are indebted to all the officials of CILT Sri Lanka, including the President, Mr. Channaka Dialvis, and Secretary, Ms. Maitri Attanayaka, for their support and encouragement from the inception of this event. We are also very grateful to our sponsors, INSEE Cement and Aquinet. Thank you for your generosity and assistance to make this event a reality. A big thanks go to the keynote speakers for being with us at this event and sharing your insights with the conference participants. We are also very thankful to the numerous resource persons at our workshops for taking valuable time to share your experience with us. Technical sponsorship extended by the University of Peradeniya, University of Sri Jayawardhanapura, and Vellore Institute of Technology made this event possible. Thanks to all the authors, researchers for sharing their findings at our technical sessions. A big thanks to the organizing committee, including the evaluators, session chairs, coordinators. A special mention is reserved to those who helped us with videography, graphics, session management, and various other tasks. You, all the participants, presenters, panel members, and audience, without your participation, this event would not have been a success. We wish to see you all at a future event hosted by ICLT Sri Lanka chapter. Thank you and have a very pleasant evening. Thank you again.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your active participation in this conference. I hope you all had a fruitful and a knowledge-enhancing event. Thank you all for joining, and I hope you have a good evening. Thank you.